Hi, everybody. I'm Amanda. This is Kevin with
Hi
A. Smith
there.
Gallery, and we're here with Melina Meza.
Welcome, Melina.
Hello, nice to be here with y'all.
Good, nice to have you. Melina received the Director's Award and the Sanctuary exhibition with an image entitled True Nature. And the juror for that, for Sanctuary, just happens to have been.
Was me.
It was you. Yeah. Well, congratulations. So,
Thank you.
would you like to read her
I
bio?
will read
Okay,
the
right there.
bio. Okay. My artistic journey, rooted in the enchanting landscapes of Northern California, is a testament to nature's transformative power and the art of mindfulness. From childhood, I found solace and inspiration in nature's beauty, shaping my path as a lens-based artist and wellness advocate. At the core of my practice is a deep reverence for the present moment, intertwining mindfulness with artistic expression. Through my camera lens, I embark on a journey of exploration, capturing the profound connection between inner peace and the awe-inspiring beauty of nature. Photography for me is not just technical, it's a meditative act of co-creation with the natural world, a testament to embracing curiosity and being fully present in every moment captured. Drawing upon a diverse array of techniques, my artistic style is characterized by a unique blend of in-camera multiple exposures, motion, and macro photography. Each image serves as a poetic interpretation of the natural world. As a passionate advocate for wellness, I strive to share the transformative benefits of spending time outdoors and immersing oneself in the beauty of the natural world. Through my art and teachings, I aim to inspire others to cultivate a deeper connection with nature, fostering the sense of harmony, joy, and belonging in the world around them. In the embrace of nature, I find not only artistic inspiration, but also a profound sense of gratitude and awe. Each day brings new wonders and discoveries, reminding me of the endless possibilities that lie within the present moment. Very nice.
Probably could edit a few paragraphs down.
No, that's
perfect.
great. That's wonderful.
And your backdrop fits the whole thing
Absolutely.
fabulously.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would you mind reading your statement?
Right. So what we're about to see with the Bodhi series is called Becoming Landscape. And this journey through the haunting, beautiful remnants of Bodhi, California, a historical gold mining town frozen in time. This dreamy Americana series serves as a poignant meditation on impermanence and the enduring resilience of nature's embrace. Nestled within the rugged landscape of the Sierra Nevada's subarctic expanse, Bodhi once thrived as a bustling hub of life and industry. From its peak population of 10,000 in 1879 to its dwindling community of 120 residents by 1920. The town's history is one of ebbs and flows, dreams forged and dreams faded. Despite the closure of its mines in 1944, Bodhi's legacy endures, earning it the prestigious designation of a natural historic landmark in 1961. As I wander through Bodhi's silent streets and weathered buildings, I'm captivated by the whispers of history echoing in the wind. The imagined conversations at the kitchen tables, the scent of wood smoke lingering in the air, the laughter of children dancing across the faded floorboards. Through my lens, I seek to capture not just the physical remnants of Bodhi's past, but the intangible essence of hope and resilience that permeates its weathered walls. In Becoming Landscape, I explore the delicate dance between human ambition and nature's inexorable march of time. Each photograph is a testament to the enduring spirit of Bodhi, a reminder that even in the face of decay and dissolution, there exists a quiet beauty in the cycle of birth, growth, and eventually return to the earth. Through the gentle surrender of buildings and objects to the tender embrace of nature, Becoming Landscape speaks to the interconnectedness of all things, the fleeting nature of human endeavors juxtaposed against the timeless grandeur of the natural world. It is a visual poem of hope and transformation. That was my Bodhi.
Very well said.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We're going to screen share your images now.
Okay.
Can you see that?
Yes,
All right.
that was just at the San Francisco at the De Young Open show. Bodhi made it in.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Very nice. So how did you come to photography? How did you start taking pictures?
Well, it's a little bit of a twofold phase here. I had a romance with it when I was 19, maybe to 21. Was in the dark room doing black and white photography down in Monterey, where, you know, in that area, there's a lot of galleries. There's a lot of great classic black and white artists that you could see at galleries everywhere. So I grew up in a special place that really emphasized photography as art. And I pursued photography at that time, which was a little bit more portrait and people, street photography. And then there was a huge gap in me not taking pictures at all for many, many years. And then the iPhone came out, and then I started taking pictures again with my iPhone. And then nature became my subject. And help. And I realized, like, through taking pictures with my camera on my phone, because it was with me everywhere I went, that I realized that I was only seeing a certain amount of the world. And then I got the camera and I realized, oh, now I see so much more of the world around me. And then I was kind of hooked at that point. So it was actually through the iPhone camera that got me back into then digital camera instead of film at this point in my life.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
You speak of your photography as a practice. Could you talk about how your yoga and wellness practice informs your photography?
Yeah. It's kind of interesting. I was visiting a friend in Austin and who's a singer, and he was doing this practice a day experiment. And he was doing a singing thing and he would write about it. And I just watched him change over the years so much by doing this thing every day. And I had been used to doing meditation and yoga practice every day. And I realized I like structure. I'm a pretty disciplined person, but I'd never applied it to an art. And so I was like, I'm going to take the year-long challenge and do a photo a day. And Facebook was my accountability page. No matter where I was in the world, I would make sure I post a picture a day. And that turned into a 7-year project and learned a lot by just taking pictures every day as a practice without attachment to it having to be kind of a winner photo, or that it was supposed to be, you know, like the best photo ever. It was just documenting a moment where I felt connected to myself and something else. And that's a lot like what happens in yoga. There's oftentimes a certain amount of movement is necessary to get to this place where I feel connected to myself, and sort of this greater pause, greater quiet that I feel like happens when I'm doing photography now, that creates a pause, and it helps me in that moment forget everything else except for what I'm with when I'm photographing. And so now it's so interesting and so obvious that photography is meditation. It's really hard to be multitasking or thinking about other things when I'm, you know, standing in front of whatever I'm standing or kneeling or squatting in front of, to make a photograph, to try to create something new that didn't exist before, to create something that could never happen again. Is sort of one of my goals. So, but one of the things that I think is a practice that yoga philosophy has this idea of practice and non-attachment, which has really freed me just to kind of take a million photos, meaning taking photos every day and not feel like I only share the thing that's perfect. So I'm not attached to this being my best photography. Like, I know from doing photography every day that I'm gradually getting better. And I know I will, hopefully, I probably have not even taken my best photo yet. You know, through practice, I see better each year. I don't know, can find the essence of what I'm photographing more each year. I maybe get better at technique things each year. without being attached to really the outcome. I don't take photos for other people. I do this for myself. And I enjoy sharing it a lot more these days with folks like you all. Just to, I feel like to see how my work measures up and complements other people's work that's out there in the galleries and exhibits that are happening. It's really fun to see, for me, my own photograph next to the ones that you pick in your exhibits. Like, wow, my photo fits in that family. And, you know, it's through a lot of photographs that I've gotten to the place to feel confident to even share them with you all. Yeah, so it's an ongoing process. I don't feel like I'll ever be, you know, done, or that I don't have anything yet. I can still learn from photography. And it's really interesting to keep connecting the dots, to keep seeing how meditated it is. And not that it's replaced my yoga practice, but it certainly adds a lot to my experience of being in the world and being more mindful in the world, rather than like in my room being mindful of how I move, what's going on in my mind. When I'm moving through the world with a camera in my hands, it becomes a you know, walking meditation. As many of you know who maybe take photos outside, you know, you move at a different speed and pace when you're, you know, looking to connect with something versus out on a hike to get 10 miles in or something, to get exercised.
Mhm.
So, for example, this is a body of work. So do you, in your practice, do you shoot with intention, or is it kind of a meditative thing in the sense that whatever comes, comes? Is that, how does that work?
Yeah, both for sure. Most days, like Monday through Friday, taking photos around my neighborhood, it's mostly just where's the light when I'm moving around. So kind of having the nature, you know, guide me towards beautiful light, or spring. So there's a lot of color everywhere. And so maybe it's a new color or shape. If I'm going to go do photos, no matter where or what I'm photographing, I keep trying to, from one of my mentors, photograph lightning in a bottle, right? To have this idea that it couldn't be, nobody else could make that photo. I always have that challenge in my mind,
Right.
whether I'm designing the photo before I go out and I'm looking for something at a particular location. But most often I go out and I just see what captures my attention, and I'm, you know, kind of not a very complicated photographer in that sense, that I'm just documenting what I find inspiring, what I find beautiful. And my hope, actually, and it's starting to happen a little bit, is that some of the more nature-oriented images that are just about beauty and color, that help me pause in my day and just be astonished by how amazingly cool nature is and all the things that she creates, but to place those types of images in medical centers and hospitals where there might not be windows, or where people might feel stressed. And I know for me, when I'm feeling stressed, I go outside and I get close to something, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, okay, I feel healthy again. I feel calm
Right.
again. And I hope to kind of have the opportunity to share just these kind of simple, beautiful things that are out in nature, and bring them indoors to places where people are a little bit under stress, or maybe not in the best health, or hearing some bad news, and knowing how much a little window into a beautiful part of nature can actually help you feel hopeful in that moment of despair or sadness or grief.
That's a beautiful thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, this last question,
So
now that I am rereading, it sounds a little snarky, but it wasn't intended that way. But it appears to be somewhat ironic that as an advocate for wellness and as a yoga instructor, you would choose a ghost town in physical decay as your subject. Could you tell us about this choice?
Well, Bodie happens to be close to Yosemite, which was sort of my major focal point. So I was going to some place that's more nature oriented, and it was a little bit of a random side trip that ended up being kind of an obsession with myself and a friend. We went there a few times. After the first visit, we're like, this place is really cool. And I am drawn to places that have a lot of feeling of spirit. I have a fair amount of ghost stories that we could share another time. So
Okay.
maybe, yeah, that there's no mistake that I ended up there and just completely immersing myself in it in a way where I actually had never seen a lot of photos of Bodhi before, maybe a few on their website. I didn't know like how many people photographed Bodhi. And so I went in, and for me, the feeling was of like, what's the future of this place? And the future of this place is it's going to fall down and nature's going to roll over it and it'll be absorbed into the arms of nature. And, you're peering in these windows that are kind of distorted and old. And I kept seeing the landscape behind me in the interior. So I was already seeing the landscape take over these buildings. It was like, a future vision of what this might look like. And so I kind of went on a mad hunt to try to bring as many landscapes into the interiors, which is actually all of these images. They're reflection images. They're not multiple exposures. And so there's an aspect of outside on the inside, whether it's the plants that were around or the actual, bigger landscapes that are in the environment around us. So I love the aging process, whether it's actually myself aging. I like who I am more as I'm an older person. I love photographing plants as they get older. I love, trees that are older, photographing them. There's so much more interest and detail, and trying to work. I'm actually in my mind, I haven't done the series yet, but a series around sensual aging, graceful aging. And I feel like we don't get enough images of how beautiful things are in the decay process, and would love to try to change that, in particular, with botanicals, which is maybe a subject I do more often, Monday through Friday at home, and how to show more images of sensual aging plants, just to kind of know that as you're aging, you can still be sensual and there can still be a lot of beauty in ourselves, in nature, as it's changing. So these were also kind of a little bit of that, raw beauty to some degree, or grace in the letting go of, these places in their pristine time. And even the windows, they're all, pretty distorted, and maybe a little bit of film over them. I went back and forth whether should I clean them up, and make them look a little bit less like warped, or, the color tone, should I brighten them? And through a good teacher mentor, we're like, no, let's try to keep them as raw and as natural as possible. And when I photograph people, I really like to keep it pretty raw and pretty natural. Like, this is what we look like. So not over polishing them to some degree. So anyway, that was a really long winded.
Well, that was a good answer.
It was a very good
That was a
answer.
very good answer.
That went a lot of places, but I actually am so excited because I am going back to Bodhi this year. They open it up a few times a year for night photography. So I hope to try to capture and make a few more for this series around the spirit of the evening there, and how might some ghostly figures show up in these pictures.
All right.
I hope.
So I would think that part of your process here is that these images are metaphors in a way too, right? Because you mentioned aging, and then there's the decay, et cetera, et cetera. Is that part of your thought process?
Well, it wasn't, but I think I wouldn't argue with you on that. For sure. And And, you know, and I feel like with these, it's really interesting to see or hear what people's feeling is when they see them, or what does it bring up for you, or, you know, I didn't realize that there's so much kind of nostalgia, I think, in these like old timey photos. And people relate to them in really different ways. And that's been a real joy to see. I got to have all of Bodie at an exhibit here in California last year. And yeah, I felt like all that was missing was like this kind of windy music, like sound of just wind blowing, smell of sage, like to actually create more of an installation with this would take it to the next level, because there is something about that crisp air that's here, and the harshness of the environment here, that I would love to try to bring into an exhibit. So more of your senses are engaged in this type of witnessing of these images. If you can imagine the chill or the heat or the smell, it kind of would take all of this to the next level. And, you know,
Yeah, that
who
would be
knows
cool.
what helps people remember.
You know,
So-
we've had some of these images in the gallery before, but they've all been straight. I mean, they were.
Bodie images
Yeah,
in general?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they've all been very
I
straight.
mean, you're taking it to a different place
Mhm.
because you're
Yeah.
not just shooting, you know, showing us some straight on
Building.
building or interior or what have you, right?
Right. And again, it's attractive. Like those shots are, I mean, the place is, you know, pretty interesting to look at. And it was interesting to come back with like none of those landscape shots. And I realized like those have been done by someone who's really good at landscape, which is not me. That's not my thing per se. Um, but
So I
yeah,
guess when they left, they just left everything there, right? I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, I think, stories about that of like what is staged and what isn't. And regardless, there's a lot of state of decay going on there. And there's usually, you know, a couple of people who live there year long at the park, which is incredible because it does have this weird microclimate where it gets, apparently it's one of the coldest places over in the Sierras in the winter, and
wow.
the walls are not insulated. Like it's not a really you know, it wouldn't be a really easy place to live now. And then you imagine back in the day,
Right.
how much wood was brought in every winter for people to survive these winters. And there's not a lot of trees really close to this place. So, you know, people really worked hard to have this, you know, to be there with hopes that everybody had that they're going to get rich.
And it was
Um,
it was mining, right? Is that right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And so
Yeah.
is it a park that you pay to get into, or how does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And
Yeah, it's a special place. I mean, I'm was not necessarily what I would say a ghost town person. Um, but there's something historic about it, and there's something environmental about this place that um, you know, spoke to me. And I know that people get the bug of Bodie and they get really into it as a spot to go, you know, visit more than once, because it's kind of hard to take it all in, at least as a photographer, kind of settling on some idea that happened with that very first shot. I was like, oh, this is really fun, like landscape on the interior, and kind of, you know, the idea of becoming landscape kind of settled early. And then when it's kind of fun to like look for that in every window possible, and then to find it not actually all that easy to create, even though I thought it was gonna, I'm like, oh, that's an easy project, but not so easy. And but I was delighted to get to have several days where it was sunny one day and it was basically snowing one day.
oh
And
wow.
there's a few different vibes there, of the blue kind of color. Um, and yeah, I'm interested, you know, in, I think people who enjoy history have connected to this series a lot. You know, yeah, I'm I'm excited for maybe more people to see Bodhi here, and it's always more satisfying to hear what other people see, or what does it make you think of when you're looking at these images?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a history nut, so I love this sort of thing.
Yeah.
I would love to go there. I mean, you
Good
immediately
road
start
trip.
to
Good road trip.
conjure, well, when you look at these kind of images, you immediately start to conjure the lives of the people that lived in these spaces.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's fine. It'd be really, a treat to get to go into some of the interiors sometime. Um, which I don't know if they allow that, but it's kind of maybe the more exposure I can get of this series, I'll have some access to some indoor interior spaces sometime. But it maybe looking through the windows is really the magic of it, was,
I agree. Yeah.
of having the outside view of it. And to my mentor who kind of planted the seed to always try to do lightning in a bottle. Like, I don't know that anybody else will create that photo or sees Bodhi through that lens. So I felt really satisfied walking away with the set of kind of about 20 images after a few days. And I mean, I was working, I was there 2 full days photographing, and felt pretty proud of having like almost 18, 20 shots that I liked at the end of a day. 2 days is pretty cool for me anyway. That feels um, really wonderful that they were all felt like you'd never seen that before.
Right.
And it's a little departure from the work I normally do to some degree. It's, not the subject I normally photograph. So I actually really also love the pared down color palette of this place, which is quite different than me, who likes a lot of color. Um, it's almost kind of set me on a path to try to create more series that include fewer colors or a softer palette, which I've been actually doing a little bit more this year. It's kind of interesting. I think Bodhi has influenced that a little bit.
Well, they all
So
hang
yeah, it's
together.
kind
They
of
hang
right?
together
Yellow,
really nice.
blues. Mhm. Yeah, thank you.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to say about it?
Uh, no, I don't think so. It's definitely worth going, everybody. Plan ahead. And if you're there in the shoulder seasons, bring lots of layers, 'cause it's really cold. Yeah. And of course, pairs well with a trip to Yosemite in the fall. That's my recommendation, which is
All
one of the
right.
really beautiful times to be there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, thanks for letting me for sharing these with your community, and for your time having this
absolutely.
conversation.
Thank you so much for doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
It's
image that I chose that got in, I wish we would have shown that. I love that image. So who is that behind the tree, right?
Yeah, it's funny because that's one of my all-time favorite photos when I think of just a moment. It very much reminds me of that famous Imogene Cunningham photo. Do you know the one there's a photographer in front and you kind of the picture of somebody behind the tree. Anyway, there's
Yeah,
a
I know what you're
famous
talking
Imogene
about.
Cunningham photo that it later after I looked at the photo, I'm like, oh, it reminds me of that. It's my friend Chiara Guerrieri, who's one of my favorite models. She happens to love to be photographed. You got to love those friends that love to be photographed. And it's at a place in Oregon, Bright Bush Hot Springs, that is and has been a sanctuary for me for so many years. It's a place I've taught yoga retreats for a long time. And there's this incredible forest called the Emerald Forest. And so we would do some nude photography out there, and which I feel like I rarely get to share that type of work, but it's a modest nude photo. And just the facial expression was
That's
just
what made the shot is
no,
her facial
no.
expression. I mean, it's a great shot, but that's what really capped it off.
I know she's so comfortable, and she was like so at home, like in her true nature, like to feel so safe out in nature, just naked by this giant tree. Like, what an amazing feeling to just feel like this is me.
Right.
Birthday suit.
Here I am.
Here I am.
Well, Melina, this
So
has been great. This has been really wonderful. Thank you so much for doing
Thank
this.
you.
And
Yeah,
for
thank
supporting
you
the
so very
gallery.
much. Yeah, I'll look forward to continuing to submit to your exhibits and look forward to, yeah, be part of your collections moving forwards.
All right. Well, great talking to you.
All right, nice
See you
meeting you
later.
too.
Okay,
Bye.
bye-bye.